listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
And welcome to a World Series edition of West Coast Bias here on Baseball Isn't Boring. And I am so stoked to say we are here. It's World Series time. And guess what? The Dodgers are in the World Series. They're going to be facing the Toronto Blue Jays. Game one, as the time that you're listening to this podcast is tonight. So I thought to myself, man, who better to talk that through with than the incomparable and legendary Tim Neverett. Tim, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just, it's been a long layoff. So getting ready for baseball again. And it doesn't seem like it's that long on the calendar, but for the baseball players' mind and timing, it's like, okay, they've been going to the ballpark every day, but it's just not the same. So I'm sure they're ready to get going.
So I want to start there before we talk about the pitching matchups and the lack of lefty pitching for the Blue Jays and the roster and all that hard stuff. They've been off. It's going to be 8 days, something like that by the time they get there.
Well, it'll be 6. Yeah.
6.
But it may as well be 8. 6 is a long time in baseball standards because oftentimes you don't go more than one day off.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And unless
you travel that day.
Yeah. Well, not always, but you get a day here, a day there. Some teams arrange their travel so that you can go after a game, get a day off on the road. Some teams like to do that. Other teams like to use that day off to travel. It just depends. But you'll have a day without a game, unless it's the All-Star break. But it does get fragmented in the postseason because of TV times, things like that. And, when you go on and sweep, you got to wait. And it took 7 games on the other side, on the American League side. So in the wild card era, in the 4 times, I think it's 3 or 4 times, 4 times where one group has swept and the other has to wait because the other series won 7 games. The team that went 7 games has won all 4 of those World Series. So that's something to kind of put in the back pocket. I don't think that means a heck of a lot because it's a small sample size. It's just a trend at this point in time. And those other teams didn't have Shohei Ohtani. So.
And they didn't have, we'd have to look at the stats, right? But you could also argue they probably didn't have the pitching the Dodgers currently have. And there's a lot of things it can go 100 different ways, right? I go back to, it was the year in 2019 when the Dodgers ultimately got eliminated by the Washington Nationals, who went on to win the World Series that year. And they had a long layoff because they had won the division. There's the kind of the break, if you will. The Nationals were the wild card winner, and that's kind of how the run. And I think about that series a lot because I feel like the Dodgers just never got going because they had that big layoff, right? That's kind of what it seemed like. They were a little rusty. Are you concerned at all about that big of a break with this squad? I know this squad is an anomaly. Their entire objective has been World Series or bust. We're here, and obviously they're going to be thinking the right way. But physically, do you think or am I looking a little too deep into that?
I think this team's about as prepared as they can be. I think they're about as healthy as they're going to be, which is a lot more than they were last year when they won the World Series. The pitching lines up right now on paper. The pitching lines up perfectly. So you have to think that once they get rolling, and the Blue Jays played just the other day in a highly emotional game. George Springer's home run wins it for him over the Mariners. But again, the Mariners, the Blue Jays didn't have to travel either. They get to stay home.
Yeah.
Where the Dodgers, they have to travel. And everybody says, it's a big deal to get into Canada. Well, let me tell you, it's really not.
It's not. No.
There's only one difference going into Canada. And that is when you get off the plane, they take your luggage off the plane. And now you're at a charter terminal. You're not going through the airport.
Yeah.
Okay. They know you're the team coming in. This happens all the time with hockey, happens with baseball all the time. And I've done it in both. I've done it both in the NHL and Major League Baseball many times. You just get your luggage off the plane, you walk it through with you, they check your passport, okay, then you put your luggage on the bus and you're in. And that's as simple as it gets.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to make a big deal about customs. I'm here to tell you, firsthand experience, it's not a big deal getting into Canada. Getting out's a different story, but getting in is not a problem at all. And they'll have to worry about getting out on Saturday night, and they've got a big traveling party, as you do in the World Series. Some teams take up to 4 airplanes with all the people they bring, and the Dodgers are bringing employees. They're bringing all kinds of people. So as the Blue Jays will too when they come to LA. So it's a whole different deal when you get to this level and this stage of the season where there's only 2 teams left and last man standing wins it all.
No, and to your point, having done that as well in baseball when I've traveled up there and with MLS, literally it's one step. They hand you a form, someone's already filled it out for you. You walk off the plane, you hand that form to the customs guy, and then you get on a bus. That's it. As we kind of look around though with it all, I want to look back at one thing, because you and I haven't had the chance to have this conversation. I actually waited to text you about this because I wanted to chat about this in this forum. What Ohtani did in that clinching game to win the pennant, I still really can't process how kind of insane that is. And someone said to me that my thinking of that is incorrect. I'm going to err on the side of caution that I don't think it's incorrect. But what say you, who's seen a lot more baseball than I have?
You've seen pitchers throw 6 innings of shutout ball, allowing 2 hits and striking out 10 before. Not a single one of them's hit 3 bombs in a game. You've seen people hitting 3 bombs in a game. Not a single one of them has struck out 10 in that same game. It was the single best playoff performance I've ever seen. I still think that the 2 best games I've ever seen a player play in person were that one against the Brewers and his other one last year against the Marlins, where he got 50-50. He went 6 for 6 with 10 RBIs, hit 3 home runs. He didn't pitch in that game. Okay. He pitched in this game as well as anybody can pitch in Major League Baseball in a high-end playoff game. Got to consider what the stakes are too. It's an elimination game, right? It's game 4, and you're pitching against the team that had the best record in baseball.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So to me, that was one of the best, if not the best, single game performances I've ever seen a player have in Major League Baseball, because he did it on both sides, which is crazy to think about. Everybody wants to bring up Babe Ruth. Well, that was in an era where nobody struck out because nobody was throwing 100.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody struck out. Now he's striking guys out, throwing over 100 miles an hour, and then standing up there and knocking balls out of the ballpark. One of them probably went 500 feet. I think he got shorted by StatCast, the one that he hit up on the roof.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, he hit it out of Dodger Stadium completely. One of them. Every home run was over 400 feet and well over 400 feet. So, crazy to me to think that anybody would doubt that, to be honest. But I've been, like you said, I've seen a lot of baseball over the years, and I've never seen anybody come close to doing anything remotely even close to that.
I think, and I did say this to somebody as well, that same person, that I think this kind of starts the quiet, like we've all been quiet about referring to Ohtani as one of the best to ever do this, right? I think that's unquestionable. I think now if this continues, this softly begins the conversation of, yo, this dude's the best that's ever done this. Because some of the stuff that he's doing, there's, again, 3 bombs in a game, that's one thing, right? But to hit 3 bombs, to strike out 10, and on top of that, you're doing it efficiently on both sides is insane. It's just, anyone that's ever played baseball, even Little League, hitting a fastball is the hardest thing to do in sports, right? And that's been argued time and time again. But to do what Ohtani did at that level, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're a homer." No, I'm not. I'm not even looking at this through like blue lenses. This is literally looking at it as a fan of baseball, that what this guy is doing just simply doesn't compute with what we're all kind of instructed to see, right?
When you look at other players who are of Hall of Fame caliber, who are going like, oh, they can't believe what they're seeing.
Yeah.
That should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not just like, oh, he's on my team, great. No, I mean, you're seeing Freddie Freeman go. It blows my mind. I can't believe it. You're seeing Mookie Betts, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point too. I mean, players like that just are so good at what they do. They're so good at the craft. And one of the most difficult things to do is play Major League Baseball at the highest level. We're past comparing him to Babe Ruth. Okay. His career is far from over.
Yes.
So
yes.
giving him the title as the best ever, I mean, now players are saying he's the best I've ever seen do this. He's got a long way to go. I mean, he's got, 400 plus home runs to go to start getting into the home run all-time leading category. How long is he going to pitch? How much longer will he pitch and pitch effectively? How much longer will he be a starter? What can't he do? That's the question. And he can do pretty much everything, but as he gets older, we don't know what's going to happen. We just don't. But at the end of his 10-year deal with the Dodgers, I think if things go according to the plan as they're going right now, I don't think there'll be any doubt. Nobody will say that he's not the best player ever because he's on that track. And we're lucky enough to watch him play. This guy's a generational player. You see him chase a breaking ball and he strikes out and you're like, guys, what's he doing? That's part of baseball. You're going to make outs.
Yep.
Okay. You're going to make outs. But when you put the numbers together at the end of the day and you go, oh my gosh, this guy is so much better than everybody else. I think, again, a long way to go. But if he keeps going in this same direction, I think that people will talk about him, easily as the greatest player ever.
When you look at the matchup, right? I alluded to it a little bit ago. The Blue Jays they both kind of have their weaknesses, right? There is still some question marks about the Los Angeles Dodgers bullpen, right? The Blue Jays starting pitching, there's some questions there. Same with their defense. I mean, roster for roster, it's not a fair comp to compare both these squads, right? Because you're going to have Mookie Betts, you have Max Muncy, you have Freddie Freeman. Those are upper echelon guys. No disrespect to what the Blue Jays are, not by any stretch, because they're no slouches either, right? We talked about it with the Brewers. The Brewers have a bunch of first round picks. So do the Blue Jays. They got some dudes too, right? They got Vladdy, who they just re-upped for $500 million. Mm-hmm. They got George Springer on one of the corners, who they paid a boatload of money to, and Bo Bichette. They have dudes. So when you sit down and you kind of compare these rosters, like what kind of stands out to you as to kind of what for both of these teams? What's the big thing that just really stands out?
Starting pitching. I mean, the Dodgers have a lot of it. They have it from both sides of the plate. No disrespect to Trey Savage, but this guy started the year in A-ball and worked his way up through the minor leagues. He spent a considerable amount of time in Double-A. And he's starting game one of the World Series. Kevin Gausman, good sinker pitcher, good sinker ball pitcher. I like Kevin Gausman a lot, but is Kevin Gausman beatable? Yeah, he's pitching really well right now, though. But then after that, where do you go? I just think the depth in starting pitching right now for the Dodgers is much better. I mean, Yamamoto just, he's coming off a complete game, and Snell could have had a complete game right before that against the Brewers. And if the series goes deep for some reason, then you get those guys twice. So I just think the starting pitching and also let's take a look at shortstop. Today, the Fielding Bible named Mookie Betts the best shortstop in baseball. How about that?
I still can't wrap my head around that, if I'm totally honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, 6 Gold Gloves in right field. He's up for the Gold Glove at shortstop this year. I've seen the work he's put in. I've seen him do it every day, every afternoon. He is out there just sweating pounds off, working on every aspect of playing shortstop. He is a good infielder. He is an elite athlete. For somebody, again, to think about this is another mind-blowing thing. To come in from the outfield, and there he had a substantial number of reps in the infield last year at both second and short. But as a first year as a full-time shortstop in the big leagues, to do what he did this year defensively was remarkable. And I'll be honest with you, there were times last year, especially where, we're thinking, just put him back in right field. Just put him back there. That's where he has thrived. Even a little bit at the beginning this year, you're thinking he's going to end up back out there. And then the season keeps going and going and going, and you watch him play more and more and more, and then you stop thinking about it. And you're just like, no, he's not only a bona fide major league shortstop, he has worked his way into being an elite major league shortstop. And when Fielding Bible, they go all over the numbers and everything else. When they tell you that he's the best shortstop, I believe them. And the Dodgers haven't had a shortstop win that award before.
Which is also crazy because they've had some shortstops.
They've had some good ones.
Yeah.
But his defensive runs saved was tied for tops in the majors at 17. That's a big measuring stick when it comes to how you play defensively. There's your ultimate zone rating. I mean, he showed good range, did all that stuff. So I think, you've got him, and he has been a clutch player in October too. So there's just a lot of different things you can look at. But we're not going to know anything until they get out in the field and play the first 9 innings, because game 1 is so important. And, we want to see what happens there. If the Dodgers can do what they've done this postseason, that is go on the road, start on the road, and win the first 2 games, then that's lights out. If they split, that's okay. But it's not a series until the road team wins at least one. And if they can win game 1, then they're off to the start that they need to be. And that's considering coming off of a 6-day layoff.
I will say, when you kind of look at what the matchups are, right? Like, listen, the Blue Jays, I think the Dodgers and the Blue Jays are a little more comparable than I think we realize. And what I mean by that is culture, right? The culture of both of these clubs, they both have a great clubhouse chemistry, great culture. You can tell that, when you have kind of your crafty vets, if you will, like your Max Scherzers and your Kevin Gosmans, guys like that on your roster, mixed in with your young guys like your Vladdy Juniors, your Yev Savages, your Varshos, like guys like that, you have to have a good balance of that, right? The Dodgers have that too. But then you look at the bullpens is where it kind of like teeters off a little bit, right? As far as kind of where the comp ends. Starting pitching, it's the Dodgers, but I think it's interesting that there's a lot of people too that with that comp of like similarities, people are really looking at it like, oh, if the Dodgers lose, they look foolish because this, all of these things that we've kind of heard the narrative of that they're the big spender, all these things, whereas the Blue Jays are kind of the little engine that could. And I think that's kind of an inaccurate kind of synopsis of it too, because the Blue Jays spent some money. They re-upped Vladdy Jr. for $500 after they said they weren't going to re-up him, right? They went out and they paid George Springer. They've paid dudes that are on this roster. And so I wanted to kind of get your opinion. And the reason I'm looking at it this way is simply based on the players, they have to play, right? They have to play. But the narrative is always going to be the Dodgers are either bad for baseball or they're good for baseball. There's no in between. And I feel like that's a really unfair place to kind of pigeonhole the Dodgers.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the teams that are bad for baseball are the ones who don't spend and don't try to win. That's the thing that's bad. I think what's good for baseball is you have teams that try to win. Now, granted, you got to understand Los Angeles is a much different market than a lot of other places. It's huge. It's one of the biggest markets in the game. It's 1 or 1A, along with New York, and the revenues. It's got the biggest stadium by far, so the revenues are going to be bigger. So they spend a bigger share of their revenue on players, where a lot of teams don't have that situation. You could just point them out, right? They all want to have the small market excuse or whatever else. But I think it's the teams that don't try and the teams that just try to do business and make a profit. I don't know. Part of the reason you see the same teams every year is because they're the same teams that are trying the hardest to win.
Yeah. I mean, and look, it's like talking about the Blue Jays, right? They went out and got some dudes. They did what they needed to do. I mean, and I was saying this to a friend of mine. Imagine what would have happened if they don't pay Vladdy. How much more
Yeah.
that bumps his contract up, right?
You also have to consider, though, there's one difference that Toronto has that nobody else has. They're the only team in the country.
Yeah.
Right? So
They are Canada's team.
Their market in Greater Toronto is huge. It's a big market.
It's massive.
But they're everywhere now, right? I mean, the poor baseball-starved folks of Montreal, well, they're rooting for the one with the maple leaf on it now. That's the Blue Jays, who would go over to Montreal and play exhibitions at the stadium. In 2016, I did 2 games over there with the Red Sox against the Blue Jays at Olympic Stadium. And they continued to do that for a few years. And I think the last one they did, Vladdy, who was a minor leaguer at the time, hit a walk-off homer in the last game before he was called up and became a regular major leaguer. It was a great story. But, I mean, it's just such a big market for baseball in Canada. I mean, they own the Canadian market, right? So that's a whole different kettle of fish. So if anybody wants to say, well, again, we get to the Brewers thing, this David and Goliath stuff, which was a bunch of, malarkey, because, the Brewers had the best record in baseball. They did it in a quote unquote small market. They did it without breaking the bank. They did it in a lot of different ways. They did it with great pitching. It can be done, right? I mean, the Brewers were a series away from going to the World Series. They were playing for the National League pennant. It can be done. There's no doubt it can be done. And the Blue Jays had a great season. They got hot. They stayed hot. People stayed relatively healthy. And, they overtook the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Rays and put them in the rearview mirror and just ran away with the division at the end. So, look, it can be done, but that's why I think this is a battle of 2 big markets and 2 interesting markets. And that's what people have to understand. It's not just this little Toronto team. This is a team in a big market that has big money behind them with Rogers, and they can spend. They can absolutely spend. The only thing that they've got that the other teams in the States don't have is the exchange rate can affect them. But oftentimes, most of the time, the contracts are in American dollars. They're in U.S. dollars. They got to pay their players like that.
Right.
So that's, the exchange rate causes them to spend more than we think they spend. But at the same time, they have a lot to spend because Rogers is the number one and pretty much only telecommunications company that everybody uses in Canada. It's an enormous company with enormous backing.
Tim Neverett, one of the voices that you hear that cover the Dodgers on AM 570 and on TV, making time to join us here on West Coast Bias. So we got a note that was publicized a little bit ago by the Dodgers, where I'll just read it. It says, it's with a heavy heart that we share that Alex Vesia is away from the team as he and his wife navigate a deeply personal family matter. The entire Dodgers organization is sending our thoughts to the Vesia family, and we will provide an update at a later date. First and foremost, sending all the best to the Vesia family. I hope, not going to throw anything into existence or speculate on anything. I know they were expecting a child, but I just can't let my mind go there. But just sending all the best to those guys and to their entire family. That's a big arm that's not going to be there. He's been a reliable arm, and he's a lefty on top of that. It's a big, obviously the personal stuff matters way more. I can attest that better than anyone, no better than anyone, but I'm aware. But it's one of those where it's tough. It's a big loss. So with that said, who fills that hole?
Well, again, best to Alex and Kayla. We don't know what the situation is. They're going to, we'll find out in due time. But when a statement starts out with a heavy heart, it's not positive. So the human side aside, and on the business of baseball side in front here, they need a left-handed guy out of the bullpen. The guy that you got to think about, and for a short stint, might be Tanner Scott. He wasn't available for the first 2 rounds. He had a procedure done on his lower half, and he says he's 100% ready to go now. He was not effective this year, all in all. He had times where he was very effective. He had some very good outings, but then at some key times he had some very poor outings. The same with Blake Trinan. But Trinan has kind of righted the ship now that he's in the postseason, and he's feeling it. He's feeling it right now, which is good. Would the same thing happen with Tanner Scott? I don't know. We'll find out where they go. Don't forget, they got a guy named Clayton Kershaw down there too. He's also a lefty. He is on the playoff roster. How will they use him? We don't know. But Vesia has been very reliable and a key guy coming out of the bullpen in the late innings. So it's something the Dodgers are going to have to navigate somehow, some way. They'll get through it. I think they hope, like in the last round, they can get some deep outings from Snell and Yamamoto and not have to worry about it as much. But, I think not having Vesia in the bullpen could be a big thing. Obviously, it's a tight group of players, too. Not just the bullpen guys who are really tight, not just the pitching core, but the entire team is very tight. And Vesia is a popular guy in that clubhouse. So these guys are obviously feeling it along with him. They, the people who know what's going on, I'm sure his teammates all know. But, again, they'll find a way. They did it last year. I mean, look at how they navigated with, duct tape and whatever. They got through it somehow. And, Walker Buehler closing out the World Series with a strikeout. Who would have thought that was going to be the case? So I don't know. I don't know what Dave does, but he's going to have to do some managing here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, a lot of duct tape and Flexall. That's how they did it somehow. And again, our thoughts and prayers just go out to the Vesia family. You just never, like you said, you never want to see a statement start with it's with a heavy heart in general. And so just sending them all the best, and we'll keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Couple more minutes here with you, Tim. And so I always do this as not only just like a guy that like talks baseball, but also as a fan. And we did this exercise with our friends with Talk Dodgers to Me during this last round. So I kind of want to do the exercise with you again. The Blue Jays will win the World Series if they do what?
If they hit a lot. They're a contact team, right? Their contact percentage is one of the higher ones in baseball, if not the highest. They're relentless. The Dodgers and the Blue Jays tied for the most number of comeback wins this year with 52. A close game is not over until they're put out. That's just the way it is. But they're a contact team. They put the ball in play. They don't swing and miss a ton. Now, they might over the next couple of nights if both Snell and Yamamoto are on. Then you got Glasnow following that in Game 3, who's a strikeout guy. The Dodgers have a bunch of strikeout pitchers, so that's the thing. And I think the Blue Jays can win if they make relentless contact on the baseball. They can find a way to score runs.
Flip side of the coin, the Dodgers will win the World Series if they do what?
If they pitch like they've been pitching. Need the starting pitching to come through. If the starting pitching gets in trouble early and there's a long bullpen situation, they're going to need to be bailed out by the bats. So you hope that they can get great starting pitching. That's what they're going to need. They also are going to need to drive in runs. They need to start early and often. And, they took 2 of 3 from the Blue Jays during the regular season. I think the 2 wins were rather easy wins. Blake Snell pitched in one and pitched pretty well in one of those games, getting a win. So it's not the first time they've seen each other. But I think the Dodgers need to get great starting pitching. And they got to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Need a few dingers. Don't chase pitches. We have some hitters that strike out a lot. Teoscar Hernandez has a love-hate relationship with the baseball. Comes up with huge hits and then chases really bad pitches. But he's really good. All in all, he's a really good player. And he's just, they're going to need somebody who's a role player, too, to stand up. Like, maybe Tommy Edman does it again. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a good series. I think it's a great matchup, and I think this is one that both countries are going to really enjoy.
I'm not gonna like legally bind you to what I'm about to ask you, but I think given that this is a World Series preview show, it's only right that I ask you, what is your prediction for what this 2025 World Series is going to look like?
As far as the prediction goes, I'm always of the we'll see kind of camp, but what I'd like to see, I can tell you what I'd like to see.
There we go. Okay.
I'd like to see the Dodgers in 5. They won it in 5 last year against a really good Yankee team. They have been cruising through the playoffs here. They're 9-1. I would like to see that. Will that happen? I have no clue, but I'd love to see them win it in 5. That means a split in Toronto and winning 3 in LA and call it good. Go on vacation after that.
I would like to see them win it in 6 because to your point, I think they will split in Toronto and go from there, right? But part of it is because I like a thick plot, right? Like baseball, this is it for baseball until spring training comes around. So like, let me live a little bit on the edge of my seat. Let me get a little pissed off, and then give me a title in 6 games. I think that's fair. I don't think I'm asking for a lot.
No, I think you win it when you win it, right? Like if you have a chance to sweep, you win it. Doesn't matter where the games are. The way that 100%. It works out, Dodgers have the middle 3 at home, but and it would be nice to see them win one at home. It'd be kind of cool. Last year they won it on the road, but I think you win them when you win them. Each day is different. That's the beauty of the game. It's one of the hardest games to predict.
Yes.
John Sterling, the old Yankee announcer, used to say it all the time. Pretty much every broadcast, he'd say, "Oh, you can't predict baseball," and you can't. It's just impossible. You can say, "Hey, we're going to win tonight," or I think something's going to happen, and maybe it does. I mean, I actually, a couple of years ago on a telecast, just on a whim, Eric Karros kind of goaded me into predicting a Mookie Betts leadoff home run, and sure enough, he hit a leadoff home run. But that's just coincidence. I've predicted things in the past that have come true, but more often than not, it's just an educated guess.
I also know you subscribe to, as most play-by-play guys subscribe to, there is no broadcaster's jinx. So I'm not overly surprised that that's kind of how that's gone down. Shout out to EK, though, for goading you into it. That also sounds like EK, though.
Yeah, I said something like when we were doing our open, like, Mookie's due for a good at bat. He goes, "Are you calling it? I go, "Yeah, sure, why not? Lead off home run," and then boom. Yeah, but the broadcaster's jinx thing, one of my least favorite topics. That is to me, quite honestly, if I could say it stronger, I would, but it's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of. It really is. Vin Scully was never accused of it, and he did it all the time. He would talk about no hitters in the 5th inning, 4th inning. Hasn't given up a hit yet, and the other team with no hits, and so far he's thrown a no hitter. And then as soon as other broadcasters come along, the first time I said it, I got excoriated by the fans. Are you kidding me? Vin would never do that. Oh yeah, well, you probably never watched him do it then or listened to him because he did it all the time.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the Dodger way, but it's also been my way because if you're not telling people what's going on, you're not doing your job. Right? Am I supposed to sit there and go, "Well, something's going on, but I can't tell you what it is"? No, that's stuff for the dugout. That's stuff for the people in the stands. That's stuff for the guys in the bullpen. That's not for the broadcast. We have to inform people that, hey, there's a no-hitter going on. This guy hasn't given up a hit. And then, like, by the 6th inning, I have a routine. I have a whole sheet. I have sheets of no-hitter information that I keep in my scorebook and in a computer file. And I'll go call that up by the 6th inning. 7th inning, I'll start looking up some particulars. 8th inning, I'm breaking them out. We're talking about it.
Well, and again, if you're not doing it, then you're not doing your job.
Right,
that's
exactly.
Just what it is. Yeah.
Exactly. And I've been there, Alonso, I've been down that road so many times with people. I've done so many games where you get to the 8th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, no hitter. I had a situation when I was with the Pittsburgh Pirates where I didn't even say anything yet. I hadn't said it yet. And our TV cameras focused in on the line score on the scoreboard in the hit column where it said 0. and we're coming back from break and it says 0, and it took them longer because they wanted to do this artsy, creative way to come back. And they had music and this and that, and strikeout, 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 then 0 in the hit column. And by the time they got it back to me, the first pitch of the inning was being thrown, and the ball was dribbling on the ground up the middle for a base hit. I didn't say a single word. I had people calling for my job. I didn't do it. And I don't control what goes on in the TV truck, right?
It's a no-win situation.
So the broadcaster's jinx, and even in basketball, well, he's 30 for his last 30 free throws, and that one goes plank. Well, then it's the broadcaster's fault. How about the guy who shot it? Why doesn't he get any trouble for that? Bend your knees a little more, might go in. So, the broadcaster's jinx, to me, I've had this discussion and debate and everything else over the years so many times. And if I could say it stronger here, I would. It is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And I've been doing this for 35 years. And it's just the dumbest thing in sports. People want to blame somebody all the time. So blame the broadcaster. If I had that much power, I'd play the lottery every night, right? And I'd win. If something I say affects anything on the field, that is just dumb.
This is a safe space, so you can say it as loud as you want, Tim. As loud as you want. You can do that here.
Yeah.
Before I set you loose. Not obviously the broadcaster's jinx. This isn't going to be applicable to it because it's just two friends talking shop, right? For you, for both of these teams, who's the guy that you think, hey, this is going to be the guy, the MVP, if you will? Like, I guess that's the better way to put it for each team for the series. Who would you say that is?
Well, I hope it's Ohtani because that means he's pitched well and he's also hit a few bombs and driven in a bunch of runs. I'd love to see him get that because every time he swings the bat and makes contact, it's got a chance to leave the yard. I've never seen a guy hit a ball as hard, as consistently as Ohtani. Personally, I'd love to see Mookie Betts have a great series. I go back with Mookie. I've probably seen Mookie play more baseball in the big leagues than anybody because I was with him in Boston for all those years. We missed 1 year together, 2019, my first year in LA after I'd left the Red Sox. And then he came over the next year. And I remember seeing him at spring training at the beginning of 2020 before it was shut down. He was doing some physical therapy out in the hallway outside the clubhouse, and he saw me walking down the hall. He got off this big rubber ball he was doing some balance drills on, and he walked over, gave me a big hug. He's like, man, it's good to see a familiar face. And so, but we've always had a good relationship, and I hope he has a great series. But for, I think for the Blue Jays, I've got two people up. The obvious guys would be Springer and Vladdy, but the one guy to watch out for is Dalton Varsho, in my opinion. He's a good baseball player. He's really a good baseball player. And in these times in October, sometimes there's a hero, right, that you don't expect. And if the Blue Jays are going to do well, I would think that Varsho would have to have a good series.
That's fair. Obviously, if you get Ohtani going, I'm convinced that he's currently playing just pissed, like he's just infuriated with himself, right? And if a guy that we're going to be talking about 20 years from now is the greatest of all time needs to get up for something, then he is human, right? The unicorn is human after all.
But this is like, okay, if you're a Hall of Fame quarterback, what's the measuring stick?
Yeah.
Right? Super Bowls,
yeah.
You got to win Super Bowls. You got to win at least one, right?
TB12, right? TB12's got 7, 8. So, that's the measuring stick.
And he's been to how many, right?
Yeah.
So the Super Bowl is the measuring stick of the great, the players that you remember, the great players. This is the measuring stick for the greatest of the great players because you get on the absolute biggest stage in the world for baseball and you show what you can do. So if he does it here, if this is his year to do it, it's just another chapter in his unbelievable legacy. And I talk a lot of great things about Ohtani. It's because I see him just about every day. And I've never seen a player do the things that he can do over a period of time. He's kept himself healthy this year. He's done a great job. I mean, doing both pitching and hitting. We'll see him pitch perhaps in Game 4. I would imagine we'd see him pitch Game 4. And is it going to be a closeout game? Who the heck knows? Blue Jays are good. But the Dodgers are also good, and people are expecting the Dodgers to go out there and win, and so are the Dodgers.
I will say that I think the who ends up being the MVP for the Dodgers, I think it's going to be Blake Snell. I think Blake Snell is going to pitch the game of his life tomorrow. I know his contract is for a few more years, so I think he's going to pitch a few games of his life, right, during the life of that contract. But I think for him, it's going to be the game of his life because he's won everything except one thing. That's a World Series.
Yep.
And so I think he's just going to just Snellzilla his way into some legendary status after this. And then I actually agree with you. I think for the Blue Jays, it's Varsho. I think he's one of those guys that's had a very solid, borderline kind of elite year, but quietly. Like no one's talked about it, right? Trey Savage, great story. That's why people call baseball a beautiful game. That's a great story. That brother started in A-ball and worked his way up to pitch Game 1 of the World Series. That's a hell of a story. Like that's one of those where if I'm a grandpa and I'm him, I'm telling everybody, all my grandkids, that story, right? Like I'm gonna be insufferable. I have a friend, shout out Sean O'Connell, who jokes all the time that if he ever won like a gold medal or was like labeled like the world's fastest man, he would just randomly start challenging people. Hey, you want to race? That's gonna be A Savage. Like my thing to hang my cap on. I started Game 1 of a World Series my rookie year. Like, so what did you do? And so I think that, I mean, again, it's the stories are going to be rad. I'm excited. Both of these environments are going to be electric. If you've never been to a game at Rogers Center, that place is so loud. It is so loud. And I think about it a lot, that Bautista home run when he throws the bat. And I still think it's stupid that the Rangers threw at him over that. It's like, bro, what you're telling me you wouldn't have done the same thing? Get out of here. But anyway, like you imagine how loud the environment was, right? Enhance that by about 100. That's how loud that place is. And
when the roof's closed. Yeah.
When it's closed. Yeah.
They'll keep the roof closed because they want to keep the same environment.
Yes.
Any stadium, and if you've noticed in the postseason, any stadium with a roof, they're always closed in the postseason.
Yes. And it's for that very reason, because it gives you a home field advantage.
Dodger Stadium, by the way, is the loudest stadium. I'm talking from the PA standpoint.
Yeah.
Every visiting broadcast crew complains about it because they can't hear themselves. I have problems. I'll actually sometimes wear earplugs under my headphones because the PA is so loud there. And the crowd gets really loud when there's 50 plus in there. And that's outdoors.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, crazy loud. So I don't think the loud's going to bug the Dodgers any because they're used to it at home.
Oh, no doubt. I think where I don't think it'll bug them, but it's one of those when the energy, right? If there's an energy shift, a momentum shift, it'll be noticeable. Like it won't be one of those where that place is going to, like, unless they're just getting ripped, it's going to be quiet, right? But even then, the Canadians, the Toronto, I don't know what they call folks in Toronto. I've been there a bunch and I still don't know what they call them, but Torontonians, that's right. They love themselves some Blue Jays. Like that's one thing. If you've ever been up there, you see Blue Jays and Expos hats everywhere, and they love themselves some baseball. And when you have the entire country behind a team, that's also a very special thing, right? It's one of those things where this is kind of, in my opinion, it worked out the best that it could have. I was really rooting for the Mariners, though. I was really hoping that they did the thing because they've never been to one. But also, Seattle's just one of the best sports cities in this country, and I felt so bad for them. That umpire was trash. I'm just going to say that as well. Like, I know I'm nobody of authority, but that dude sucked. But it is what it is. Like, that's just a part of the game. But I Toronto is a great consolation prize in my mind because it's another one of those another sports town that you go to where they love their sports. They love their sports.
And they're rallying behind the Jays because the Leafs always lose every year.
I didn't want to say that.
So it's true. I mean, the Leafs get far and then they lose and they disappoint everybody.
To my Canadian friends. Oh, go ahead.
We were up there with the Dodgers a few years ago, and the Leafs were playing Boston. while we were there, and it was an elimination game. And of course, Boston wins on the road, and the Leafs lose, and the town just goes utterly silent. It was really disappointing for those folks, and it seems like it happens all the time with the Maple Leafs. So at least for the Blue Jays, they're giving people some hope up there, and I just think it's going to be a great series. The Dodgers are built for this stuff, and they're ready for this stuff. It'd be nice to see them get going early in the ball game in Game 1.
To my my French Canadian friend Franck Lachance and my other buddy Corey, who when they were here, we were working together, and the Maple Leafs were in the playoffs, and we all know how that turned out. They were so excited to go watch those games, and then when they came back to work, just devastated, just devastation. And so if there's any semblance of of hope that any of those franchises is going to get, it's going to be the Blue Jays and probably the Raptors. I mean, the Raptors won a championship not too long ago, and they about burned the damn city down. But yeah. It's one of those where it's the two most deserving, kind of the two last man standing, and they're going to go for a duel. And listen, I'm just so stoked that I was able to have this conversation with you, Tim, because you're not only one of the best, but you have, if not as much insight, more so than some, to be able to look at this pragmatically. So then that way I can put the fan hat aside and be like, okay, I'm not being dumb here. I'm actually looking at this slightly from, I don't want to say intelligent. That's too of a braggadocious of a word, but I'm looking at it a little more simply.
Well, when you've been around the game for a while, you tend to look at it differently than you do if you just buy a ticket once in a while, sit in the stands, or you follow it on a regular basis. When you see it every day, you see games and you see the way they end. They can, there's just so many different games like within the game, and there's so many different types of games. There's blowouts. There's 7-4, right? Right. Then you got your 2-1 games that come down to the last at bat, and you leave the bases loaded with 2 outs. I mean, there's so many different things that go on. The personalities you meet, the way that these people get ready for games, all the behind the scenes stuff that I've been privy to. It does change your perspective, not in a negative way or anything. It just changes your perspective on how you go about looking at things and trying to be, pragmatic about the sport, the business of the sport, and everything else. But nobody does the business of the sport like the Dodgers do, by the way. It's been incredible to see what they've done in terms of, turning the turnstiles. 4 million this year, 4 million plus, back in the World Series. Great fan base, obviously, not only here but internationally. Getting great, amazing TV ratings in Japan. And no secret as to why, but Shohei's a draw.
Yeah,
and that's why every time you go to a Dodger game at Dodger Stadium, you see, I don't know how many thousands of number 17 jerseys there are there now. There's tens of thousands of them. It's crazy. But at the same time, this is going to come down to scoring one more run than the other guy in 4 games out of 7, and hopefully Game 1 goes to the Dodgers. We'll see.
Well, it starts today. If you're listening to this, today. Game 1 today on Fox. And listen, I'm excited. I'm pretty pumped about it. I'm going to be very reasonable and keep my alcohol consumption at a responsible level, so I don't get I don't randomly text you anger. But listen, Tim Neverett, if you're not following him on the socials, Tim, where can the people find you to follow you?
Just at Tim Neverett, Neverett. Everybody has a million ways to spell it. None of them are right except that one I just gave you. They're just at there. You can find me. It's pretty easy to find me, but welcoming all followers and looking forward to seeing what happens as this World Series commences. And, I've been pretty fortunate to be around teams that have been to the World Series more than I ever thought I would. I've got friends in this business that do what I do that have never sniffed it. And, the Dodgers are 4 outs away from getting me my 4th World Series ring. And that's, I realize how lucky I am because of that. But at the same time, it's just it's a wonderful sport to be around. It's a wonderful club to be around, and a great organization. But they got to win on the field now, and it's not going to be easy in Toronto.
No, four more in a chip. And listen, man, I'm just happy that you can be the voice of reason for me, and I'm humbled to call you a friend and be able to riff about this. So Tim Neverett, go follow him. We'll try to catch up during the series. We'll see kind of how this all goes. I really hope, to your point, that they at least steal. If they steal one, I hope it's game one, and I hope it's in the fashion that I just laid out, where Blake Snell just pitches the game of his life. But the way I hope it ends, the storybook way, what I would like to see is what you said. I hope Clayton Kershaw walks out and throws an efficient 7 to 10 pitches and calls it a career with one last outing, clinching it for the team. Because I believe if anyone deserves that as they walk off into the sunset at the picturesque ravine, it's one Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, and he's available, obviously. And as a manager, you're not going to use him just for old time's sake. Hey,
100%. 100%.
He's got to be the right guy in the right situation now, because this is all hands on deck time.
Well, and again, like you said, baseball is not predictable. That's what I would like to see. But if there's one thing I know about Clayton, given how his last outing was, he wants that one back, and he wants to show everyone that he still has it on the way out. And if there's a guy that deserves that, it's for sure him.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, it's going to be wild when it comes back to Dodger Stadium, regardless of what it is.
Yep.
2-0, 1-1, 0-2, no matter what it is, it's going to be wild at Dodger Stadium. And, the reason I say I'd like them to finish in 5 is so they don't have to go back to Toronto.
That's all fair too. Well, Timmy, thank you again. I appreciate your time. As always, please go follow him. This has been another episode of West Coast Bias. My friend Tim Neverett. My name is Alonso Sarinana. Joe Kelly and friends here. We are on a mission to show everybody that baseball is not boring. So I hope that this podcast showed you that baseball isn't boring. And most importantly, go follow us on all the socials. Go follow Tim, and we'll catch you on the next one. Go Dodgers in 6, maybe 5. That's what we would like to see.